Hello and welcome back to Queerly Thinking. I'm Reese Wheatley and I'm here today sitting with Ken, a junior music education major here at EKU. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I know we've been trying to do this episode for a while and I am so excited to have you here today. So thank you for coming on, especially during finals week.
I know.
A very special time for us students.
Oh, yes.
Yes, of course. So what are your pronouns and your gender identity?
I use he, they pronouns, he, him, and they, them. I identify purely as a trans man, but sometimes I'm genderqueer just for the fun of it. But usually I just say I'm a trans man because that's usually about right.
So what does that mean to you? If you want to give us a little description of what your identity means to you.
You know, I went very hard down the she, her to she, they, she, and then all three, and then two pipeline, you know? And so it's been a lot of trying to figure out who I am through the 3 years I've been at school. So to me, it's very much using trans man as who I am is very affirming to me. For the first time in a long time, I've been fully affirmed, you know?
Yeah. How long ago did you start going by that?
Probably 9 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's more recently.
Yeah.
Me too, because you said the she, they road, and then they, them. I also did the same thing. I identified as non-binary for about a year, and then I was like, hey, I'm a trans guy. Here I am. This is actually who I am. I've just been working my way up to this. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. I love that. So you're an RA on campus, and I wanted to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. I work in McGregor.
Okay.
McGregor's a special little hall. But we actually have over a majority of our staff is LGBT in McGregor. Oh, wow. Which is really cool because we're the football building. So we've got lots of big burly men in the building. But it's really nice to work with entirely coworkers that are I don't know how to put it.
In the community?
Yeah, in the community. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I could not form words at all. But affirming to you and who you are. Yeah. And I love them. They're my best friends, all of them.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I think that sounds great. I'm sure that to an extent that validates your all's identities, and I'm sure that it also makes for interesting conversations. Yeah. Whenever you guys are working together, working nights, if you all work the desk or anything.
Yeah. We get into some crazy stuff. McGregor has a unique set of cast members, I like to say.
I feel like all buildings have that with their RAs. Mm-hmm. I've run into that.
They're so unique, every one of them.
Yeah. So have you ever experienced, I'm just curious since you're an RA, have you ever experienced the Pride LLC since they've had it?
I have friends who live on the Pride LLC this year, and I tried to apply for it, but it is a hot one to go for RAs, because there's so many LGBT people in the RA community that it is very hard to get a spot as the RA. But I have friends who live on there, on the floor. I think it's in Telford this year.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I lived in it last year, and it was in Telford. It was interesting. I think it was one of the first times that they had a Pride LLC exclusively for a floor. Yeah. And it was an interesting experience. One of my other guests, Samuel, that I had on, they were my roommate. Nice. In the LLC, and it was interesting. But tying that back in with the RA stuff, what has your experience been with the community, not just with your coworkers, but within the residents that you have to oversee?
Yeah, it's really weird because McGregor is a community dorm, and I'm trans, so it's a little strange to have my pronouns on my door and then also be the RA of a female floor. But
okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's really strange. But my residents are really cool people, and it's a very validating floor to live on, because I've had multiple people like who live on my floor just walk up to me and be like, I want to make sure, and ask me all the questions. And so it's nice to live on the floor that I live on, but it is definitely strange to like, because I haven't fully changed anything with EKU yet, but I'm fully out. So where I'm still not out to EKU, I work on a female floor. But
gotcha. So they do that by people's gender markers, assign RAs to floors.
Yeah. So if you work in a community building, everyone on the same floor is the same gender.
Okay.
So, yeah. So my floor is fully female, and me. but
the mighty trans man,
the mighty
in charge.
Yeah, trans man in the higher up roles.
Yeah. Well, I love to hear that they're really inclusive and open with you, because that brings me a lot of comfort to know that more people are open. I feel like more people are open on campus than people realize.
Oh, 100%.
Because it is Eastern Kentucky. So even in doing this podcast, I was like, no one's going to want to listen to this, right? No one's going to want to hear some of what I have to say. But the thing is like, if you're accepting, that's like the first step into understanding another community that's not your own. And that's pretty cool, in my opinion.
Yeah. I did not know that EKU was so, set on making sure people felt comfortable on campus. Because I grew up in, Appalachia, Kentucky. So.
Oh, did you?
So I grew up in a very, kind of.
What was your experience growing up in that part?
I grew up, very sheltered. Because I grew up probably 20 minutes outside of, hollers, as you would call them. Yeah. But, I grew up in a very, racist, homophobic household. Okay. Which my mother and my father aren't really, but, all of my extended family are super racist. And my parents are pretty homophobic. So that was crazy.
So they don't accept you?
They don't know.
Okay.
At all.
Do you still have contact with them?
Yeah.
Or? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear about that.
It's okay.
I also don't know how to respond to that whenever anyone says that. I'm like, you're thriving, so it's their loss, honestly.
Yeah, it is their loss.
To not be a part of your full self.
Yeah. It's wacky. But it's really cool to, be here and not have to worry about, my name and what I go by. And, because this year I fully, new name, new everything. Went in head on.
Oh, wow.
In the fall. Because I was still using my dead name in the spring. But, had my new pronouns. And so this year I, went full head on. Nobody knows my dead name that I know. So that's cool. Makes me feel great.
Yeah, it always makes you feel nice, right? That nobody around you is like, but it's, my email is still my dead name. So,
mine
of course, when I have to, when someone in class is like, can I share this with you? Can you what's your email? I'm like, I'll just type it in. And they're like, okay, casual. They don't say why, and that's the aspect of being at this college in particular that makes me feel so comfortable. Mm-hmm. And so it's good to know that someone else has that experience on this campus.
Yeah.
Because it seems to be a trend of guests that I've had on. Mm-hmm. And more recently, I think it was a few weeks ago, they had the Pride in the Plaza, which was that the first one?
I
want to say that it was the first one on campus, which is, it's 2022. That was the first one. How cool is that?
I know.
That's awesome. So did you take part in any of that, or did you just go as an experience?
I kind of went for the fun of it. I ended up kind of working it in a way.
Okay.
Because one of my friends was running a booth. And I was like, yeah, I'll sit with you. And I ended up just working.
I love that. You sat with Brad?
Yeah, I sat with Brad. And we just kind of hung out. And then I went around and shopped, I guess.
Yeah, really, for all the free stuff that they
free
had.
T-shirt.
I love that. That's so great. Because when I went, there was a bunch of free stuff on the tables, and I was like, period. I'm going to grab, like, that's my true personality coming through in the podcast. Because this is me every day of my life. If I see free stuff, I'm like, period. Let's grab like 5.
I know.
Honestly, free if it's samples. Okay, I'll ask someone at the booth. I'll grab 1 if you want me to, but honestly, like, I'll grab 5 if you're just wanting to get stuff off your table. Because I'm a college student. We like free stuff. Even if I don't need it, I'll literally walk up to somebody and be like, do you want this? And they're like, sure. I'm like, period.
Per.
Yeah,
they had a button booth that had like pronoun pins and stuff and just like casual pins, and I was like, this one, and maybe also this one, and maybe a third one. I was just having a ball.
I was trying to get a she/her pen for somebody, and they didn't have any left, and I was like, wow, you all are all grabbing. And what surprised me most is that everybody went. Everybody, I saw all types of people there.
Yeah.
Even like the most, this is how I perceive them, the most straight looking people were there. And I was like, you guys are coming to Pride? I mean, I know there's free stuff, so they may just be there for that. But I'll give them the ally points. I'll be like, benefit of +1 for you. Yeah. You're just walking into a gay part of the community.
Yeah, brownie points.
No, yeah, really. But it was a lot of fun. The performers were very interesting. Free stuff is always nice. But did you stick around for any of the performances or anything?
I was there during some of the performances just like happening. I was just on the side, and they just come out, and I'm like, someone's coming out. And then I would stand and watch, and then they would leave, and I would continue doing what I was doing.
Yeah. Did it feel like an actual Pride to you?
No.
How so?
It did, in a way, feel like one, just because Prides are usually just like booths with free stuff. It's usually just what Prides normally are anyways. But it kind of just felt like a just like normal EKU event, which is a weird way to put it, because obviously it was a Pride.
Yeah.
But, and I loved the people could sign up to do a vending place if they want. Like, I had a person I like just knew who was just selling his art just for the hell of it, on the thing. But I think it did feel like a Pride in some ways, but not fully. It just kind of felt like another, here's a t-shirt and some stuff to do.
Yeah. So EKU still has a ways to go.
Yeah.
But it still felt kind of like a Pride. Like, kind of the same concept. Like, y'all hit the nail on the head, but it didn't go in all the way.
Yeah. Like, I thought it was great. Like, I think the people who set it up did a really good job.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really fun. But it just didn't feel like I could go there and be myself sort of place. Because I was like, I'll roll up. And then I was walking around, and like you were saying, there was so many, like, Republican, straight-looking people rolling up.
As you see on EKU's campus all the time.
And I was like, I'm a little scared to be out here by myself.
Yeah, a little out in the open, too.
Yeah.
Which could have been indoors, but I guess it was a nice day. But
yeah.
Anyway, so.
Yeah, I don't think it was their fault in any means. I just think it's EKU as a whole has a long way to go.
Yes. That is my hope for this podcast and what we can do. But so going back to you being an RA, I kind of was thinking, what do you do for your residents, or if any of them are a part of the community, to kind of provide a more inclusive environment besides just being there and providing a safe space?
Yeah. That it's like so crazy how you do so little, yet it does so much of like, because EKU does the stuff of giving you like a tag to put your pronouns on and stuff, but there's also the fact of, you have to respect those people. You just can't just put them up and then expect everyone to respect them, especially in a place like McGregor, and so it is a big deal of mine, at least, to make sure that all of my residents and even people that I know who aren't my residents feel safe to come to me and talk to me.
Yeah.
And I'm always double checking, before I walk in the room. Because you know people's pronouns, but you get scared. You're like, oh, what if I mess up?
Yeah, right.
Even as someone who uses different pronouns than what they used to, I'm still scared that I'm going to mess up.
I am also scared that I'm going to mess up all the time.
All the time.
And it's so sweet because I recently came out in like June as a trans man, and I changed my pronouns obviously to he, him exclusively. And my grandmother still beats herself up about it. And it's only been a few months, so, can't blame her. She's always like, oh, I hate messing up. And I'm like, I hate messing up too. Like sometimes, like I have queer roommates and I mess up all of their pronouns all the time. Because sometimes when I wake up, I'm like, I don't like Sam. I'm like, he's in the bathroom to one of my roommates. And they're like, that's not their pronouns. And I'm like, I know. And it's like hard to not beat yourself up about it when even when you're within the community. But honestly, like, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone messes up. It's not like something that you're ever going to be a real pro at.
I know. Like, I'd be messing up my own pronouns sometimes.
Casually misgendering yourself.
Yeah. I do that all the time. Like, it's getting better. But, like, when I first started, like, whapped the she out of the pronouns, I was messing up all the time. I'd be like, ooh, ignore that.
Catching yourself in little moments like, oh, wow, I just did that to myself.
Yeah. Embarrassing.
So it's lovely to hear that your residents have that type of ally and also friend within the community. And it's interesting to think about because I assume most RAs are not that way, but there's always RAs like you that make everyone feel open. And so I feel like that is helping the inclusivity on campus, and people know that they do have someone to go to.
Yeah, I think RAs are gonna be a big part of inclusivity on campus. Like, when you get interviewed in, one of the main things they always ask is, how are you gonna be inclusive? How are you gonna be inclusive? And you answer, but you don't really see it once you get in the job. Like, you have to actually put it to work. What you say in the interviews has to be what you do in the job. So I think putting ourselves to work to help, because we are the main resource for like 90% of the students on this campus, There's not many, I don't think there's many commuters anyways. Like,
I would not know. I would have to look up the statistics.
I don't know the statistics at all.
But yes, I would
assume. But there's so many residents on campus.
Yeah.
And if we're not accepting, then like, who do they have? Besides, like,
exactly, yeah, you're the direct person that's impacting their life.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of factors in college that impact your life, but RAs are definitely one of them. My first RA in the LLC, the Pride LLC, impacted my life by just being super open, and instead of in Colonel chat sitting down and just saying, okay, well, your grades look good, if that's something I believe you all have access to. Like, I don't know. And checking up on, what's your housing experience? And she was like, how you doing? How's your personal life? Is campus being as inclusive as you thought it was going to be? And most of the time the answer would be, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. We don't have video on this podcast, but Ken totally just saluted. And that's exactly what I was thinking of, so thank you for taking that out of my mind.
Of course. Soldier salute.
Period.
Pride LLC.
Yes. If there's going to be a period count now on my podcast because I'm going to start saying it so much. Period. Love it. But yeah, inclusivity on campus is so important, and that's what I'm hoping to kind of talk about with people, or at least open a conversation, I want to say, on campus with these podcasts, with people in the community that understand. And I'll eventually have allies on, because I think it's so important to have people on that are not within the community, but they do understand the community to an extent. So going back to like you growing up with parents that weren't accepting and around a rather environment that sounds full of bigotry, to be honest.
Yeah.
So was your transition to college like a complete, like, utter shock to you when you moved to campus?
Yeah. It was crazy. You know, because I grew up in one of those towns where you will go to a high school and there's like 3 people of color in your whole graduating class, you know?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're from...
I'm from, like, Kentucky.
The Kentucky that people think that they're coming to.
Yeah.
Yes.
When they think of Kentucky. And so getting here was crazy. Like, even just, like, seeing diversity on campus, I was like, oh, wow, that's insane. But being alone for the first time and, like, having my own thought process was crazy. Like, blew my mind how, like, many more thoughts I could have, you know?
Have you learned more about the community, would you say, since being on campus?
Yeah, I barely knew anything at all, like,
really?
In high school. Like, I knew, like, I had friends who were, like, openly gay in high school, but that was about all the exposure I had. Because, like, this is a terrible thing to say, but, like, TikTok wasn't really a thing when I was in high school. So, like, I didn't really have that exposure because it's my whole TikTok feed is just gay people.
But the algorithm is working its magic.
It is working its magic. But, like, getting here and having, like, the door tag ask your pronouns, I was like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like, I'll write them, but I don't know why they're asking.
A little bit of a culture shock.
Yeah.
That's what I had. And I did not grow up like that. I grew up in a really, you know, prestigious public school around an area where it's a bunch of white Christians.
Yeah.
That's just the population of our school. I'm just speaking the truth here. And everyone, like, seemed to be inclusive, but it wasn't inclusive in the sense that they, like, asked for pronouns or, like, the teachers were absolutely wonderful, but the students just kind of went with the flow. Mm-hmm. And that's normally how things went. You had to be a real special person for everyone to know your name and pronouns at the same time.
Yeah.
That's just the way it was. But it was a huge culture shock coming in, and everyone's like, what are your pronouns? And every time I'd meet somebody that was either an RA or RHC or just within any upper division of EKU, they would ask name and pronouns, and I was like, oh my God, I don't have to tell you my dead name. I can tell you the name I prefer. Mm-hmm. That is shocking.
It's so nice. Because, like, back to the high school, the high school I went to, if you were, like, came out as trans at my high school, you were bullied. Like.
Really?
Yeah. Like, there were 1 or 2 people I knew personally who were trans, and they would get dogged on by, like, everyone. And then, so it was like ooh, this is a weird environment to be in.
Yeah. And
then to come here and, like, it'd be everyone and then be a trans man after, like, 2 years. Crazy.
Like, I definitely think I didn't come out because it wasn't in my timeline yet for me to come out till this year, I felt. But I do think that there were a lot of factors that contributed into that. And it's absolutely, like, the way that you grow up, the way that you perceive and are exposed to trans people, especially as a trans person. Mm. And so in being exposed to more in college, have you started thinking about the physical transition aspect, or are you kind of sticking with how it is right now?
For right now, I'm kind of sticking with it because I don't know, this might be weird, but I really want to have kids.
Okay.
Like,
that's not weird.
Fair.
Wait, sorry. It's probably weird to people that don't know, and that is not normalized. It's not normal for men to be pregnant, quotes. Yeah. You know, but yeah.
Like, it's
that's
always
wonderful, though.
Thank you. Since I was a little kid, like, I've always wanted to have kids, and I thought maybe I'd grow out of it, but I have not. Okay. And so my goal is to eventually transition, but I would like to have at least 1 child first.
Okay.
And then move on.
Yeah.
You know?
That's pretty cool, though. Okay.
It's strange.
No, I'm learning. I'm still learning. I've just never met a trans man that wanted to do that. So that's so special. Also, congrats.
Thanks. Thanks.
But yeah, I'm curious to know, how do you think that people who are listening, anyone specifically on campus, whether it's a professor, a student, admin, how can we make this campus more inclusive?
I think, like I was saying earlier, the one thing we need to start focusing on is like actually respecting people and what they identify as. Because I know we have a lot of old people as professors on campus.
Correct.
And lots of just like older people in general, like middle-aged isn't old, but like
older.
And my experience personally, it is very, very hard to get professors to use your right pronouns if that's not what's in the handbook that they get at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
Because even if I tell them, they just won't do it.
So it's been a struggle.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think just like overall being more open to the ideas, like professors to students, like realize that this is a completely different generation than you.
Yeah.
And even if you don't like it, sucks. It's what's happening. Yeah. And you can't just decide that you aren't going to respect someone, because then how can I respect you? You know? Like, how am I going to respect you?
Yeah, it's a two-way street.
Yeah. Like, if you're teaching me a class, but you're also calling me by my dead name and misgendering me every time I raise my hand, I'm just not going to care. And I'm not going to raise my hand anymore because I don't want you to say that. You know?
Yeah. So. No, I completely understand. I would feel the same way if I ran into that issue. But yeah, one of my first guests, Samuel, was on, and they had struggles with a professor too that did that. And so I think professors are like the direct pipeline to the open doors of inclusivity on this campus. Mm-hmm. And that's just the truth. It's not admin, it's not the students. It absolutely starts with professors and using the right pronouns and the right names. Most of my professors emailed me emailed everybody before the semester started and said, hey, if you have preferred name, preferred pronouns, please let me know because I want to get it right. Mm-hmm. And so they did that. But it's not surprising to hear that in other departments they probably do a little differently. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's probably much older people teaching some certain topics.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a professor, like, I was in a class of, like, 10 people. So we all just went around and said our name and pronouns.
Oh, okay.
And didn't care. Like, but it's like we did it for nothing. It was crazy. Because the whole rest of the year, it was like I had said nothing. And I was like, oh, this is weird. But I'm too scared to call you out in front of people. So I just won't.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to correct people after a while of being used to people knowing and then kind of just settling for less when people just get it wrong all the time. And I understand that can be exhausting. So I'm sorry that's going on. I do hope it gets better.
Thank you.
Eventually people start to respect pronouns and your preferred name.
Crazy to hope.
Yeah, crazy to hope for something like that. But I do hope it gets better. And if it doesn't, I hope that you can go to someone and they can do something about it because you do deserve to be respected to the full extent.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. But I thank you so much for coming in today, especially when it is finals week and it's such a stressful time for everybody. But I appreciate our conversation, and I hope that you come on next semester when Samuel is my co-host so we can talk more about, hopefully, you being an RA on campus.
Yeah, that would be so fun.
That would be awesome. Well, this has been Queerly Thinking. I'm Reese Wheatley. Have a good day.